Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and it's time to talk about the Ganzo G753. So there she is, guys. Ganzo's G753. Definitely the best knife I've seen come out of Ganzo yet. As we look around the knife, we've got G10 handle scales, mildly textured, enough to give you some grip, but not enough to tear up your pockets. We even have some grooves right here on the knife, and they look nice, and they actually help a little bit with grip. And while we've got it up here, one of the things in this Firebird line of knives that Ganzo is putting out is Anodized Hardware, thumb studs, pivot screws, and your body screws. Comes out really nice. The only issue I have with that is that the body screws are absolute junk. Ganzo has never had really great quality body screws, but they've always been good enough, as good as any other budget manufacturer. But with the two 753s I have, all of the body screws have been junk. It's almost impossible to get the knife apart. It's just really bad. Anyhow, we have on the back side, we've got our back spacer. We've got a little jimping up here, and it's unfortunately badly placed jimping. And it is partial flow through. On this side, we have just our basic pocket clip. It is tip up, left or right hand. And as we roll around the top, we can see that the blade is well centered. That's one thing that Ganzo overall has done a pretty good job with all the knives I've seen, is they have been well centered, and both the examples of this knife I have are well centered. And as we get it down here, the action on this knife is probably, no, it's not probably, it is the best Ganzo action that I've dealt with out of the box. It feels tight. There's no blade play in it in any direction. The springs are mildly stiff, but definitely you can actuate them fairly easily. And it is just a pleasure to use. It's a knife that you would want to stick in your pocket and enjoy for the day. Comparable with anything out there in the budget world, and the action itself is getting up there to where it's within spitting distance of anything Benchmade has, or any other company for that matter. Before we get into the blade, we've got a big lanyard hole here, and opening the thing up, we of course have our blade. And you'll notice I haven't sharpened this one like I normally do, and there's a reason for that. I've got something to show you here in just a minute. That we have a flat ground blade with some really nice swedge work. And yes, it's all reminiscent of some ProTech knives. There is no doubt that ProTech is the inspiration for this knife. And one thing they did get wrong, though, is their plunge grind. And oh my goodness, this isn't just a we lightly got the plunge grind wrong. This is a we botched it on the plunge grind. This knife has had the plunge grind fixed. And as you can see, there's a major difference here. Little more than 2/10 of an inch missing out of this knife after I fixed the plunge grind. And whew, that's a miss. Ganzo needs to do something about that. And that's going to become a theme here, guys. Ganzo has done such a really, really good job with this knife that we're going to start picking on the more particulars, the smaller things, the things that we normally wouldn't pick on too much on a $20 knife. But they've stepped up their game, and if they're going to step up their game, they're going to listen to us, and they're going to be innovating. I'm going to point out the negatives so that they know what they are, so that they are aware of what we're seeing, and they can do something about it, because they seem to be listening to us. Anyhow, rant off. The other thing, as we have the blade open, that we can see is this coating that Ganzo is using is pretty bad. And that is, I didn't go out and beat on this knife. It's cut up some boxes. It did a little flooring work, and that's the result. And I have tried everything under the sun to clean that off, but it is not going to clean off. It's scratched into that coating. And you would think, okay, well, I'll get the satin one. Well, the satin one has done the same jobs, and That's what I've got on the satin one. So, not unusual for a blade. You know, I expect a little more from a blade. I expect it to be able to take some abuse without showing a whole bunch of marks on the blade. And as we have one open, you can see something else that Ganzo's done. They have milled the liners out. We've got, what is that, 3 holes in each liner? And that is excellent. It lightens up the knife by, my guess is about 1/4 of an ounce or so. But they're trying. They're listening. And I really, really appreciate that. And they're doing all that while keeping a rather slim knife at a reasonable weight for its size. 4.51 ounces and 0.5 in handle thickness. So overall, they're doing us a pretty darn good job. Ergonomically, it's very good. Works out really good in either hand. The jimping here is kind of missed if you get a standard grip on the knife, but overall, it'll do any and everything you need it to do. Well, that's the G753, guys. It is leaps and bounds above previous Ganzo offerings. Now, there's always going to be the fuss that this may be a ProTech, I believe it is, TR, whatever, copy. Now, as I said in a previous video, I think this one is definitely inspired by ProTech, but it's not an exact copy. If you look up those ProTechs and get a good look, it's not. Is it inspired by? Of course it is. And does that mean Ganzo is moving in a better direction? I sure hope so. I would really like to see them come out with their own designs that we can say, hey, that's a Ganzo design. It is not something they've copied off somebody else. I would really like to see them respecting other companies' trademarks and whatnot. But back to this knife. This is just so much better than anything I've touched from Ganzo before. And, you know, the best way I thought to put it, some of you will get this analogy, and I've got a second one for some of the younger guys. But for those of you that remember the Japanese cars from the 70s, you know, those cars kind of had a rough feel to them. You know, we all knew they were good cars, they were reliable cars, but they just weren't comfortable. There was something that just wasn't right. You know, it just didn't have that feel. And then somewhere in the middle to late 90s, it changed. And all of a sudden, that Toyota Camry, man, that thing felt solid. Felt good. It was enjoyable to drive. It wasn't just a piece of transportation, just something to get you from point A to point B anymore. It was truly a car that you could enjoy. And that's kind of what we've got here with the G753. We have moved from it's a good piece of equipment that will take care of you, it's going to be there for you, to it's an enjoyable piece of equipment. It feels solid. It gives you confidence. And that's what I see here. For you younger guys out there, you know, maybe your mom made you go to the discount store or you know, Walmart or Target or something like that to buy your jeans and t-shirts whenever you were little. And, you know, that was all right. Those jeans and t-shirts worked just fine. They fit you. They made it through and whatnot. But that first time you got to pick up a pair of whatever brand was your preference for jeans and shirts and whatnot, they just felt awesome. You know, I'm right there with you. It's something you guys probably never heard of, but my mom made me wear Tough Skins, thinking, I forget what the Sears and Roebuck's brand was back then, and maybe it was Tough Skins, and then Penny's had their own brand. And then somewhere as I got a little older, my dad started putting us in Levi's. And it was such a major change. The Levi's were so comfortable. They gave you confidence. You felt so much better in them than you did in the department store jeans. Same thing here. This knife gives you that confidence. It feels solid. And it's not just the fancy pivot screws. It's not just the anodized thumb studs or the fact that they milled it out. There's some sort of other special sauce in here that is just freaking wonderful. And I hope that Ganzo continues down this path. I'd like to see Ganzo do this, even if it raises the price of the knives by a few bucks. You know, because these are selling on GearBest and the other Chinese connection websites for under 20 bucks right now. But if Ganzo could deliver this with fixes for the few little things I kind of quibbled about, I would be very happy to pay some more than 20 bucks to get one of these knives and have something good and reliable to use. So anyhow, guys, Ganzo is listening. Ganzo is, doing things like Spyderco does. They are listening to the customer. They are changing. They are reinventing their product line as they go along. It's one of those things that we love and hate about Spyderco. Every time they do a run here in the U.S. or over in Taiwan, little things change with their knives. And some of us fuss about it, others celebrate it. I'm kind of in the middle there. I like it that they're continuing to make things better, but it is kind of a pain that parts from an older knife of the same model may not fit on the newer one. But I think in Ganzo's case, it's a great thing. They are iterating. They're getting better. And I think you get the point. Anyhow, the 753 is an excellent knife compared to any Ganzo that I've had my hands on in the past. And is it up to the level of some of the more expensive knives? Not yet. They've got some straightening out to do with a few things, but they have got fit, action, those sorts of things are getting really, really good. It's just those little things we wouldn't have picked on them for a few months ago because there were other bigger issues. Anyhow, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.